Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. This is Michael Fitzmaurice from EzzyBills. I'm the CEO of EzzyBills, and I'll be presenting the webinar today. Elise is our partner manager, and she'll be on the call as well, and she'll help with questions and things like that. So a lot of people are still joining, so I'm just going to give it a couple more minutes, and then I'll start the webinar. So if you're here for a webinar on automation, then you're in the right place, because that's what I'll be delivering today. Okay, I'm going to start now. So as I mentioned, I'm Michael Fitzmaurice, CEO of EzzyBills, and I'm going to present a webinar on automation. I guess workflow and automation are synonymous, and what we're going to do is I'm going to demonstrate how you can create workflows which can automate processes through the new EzzyBills AI. So I'll just go straight in there now and just clean up my desktop here. All right. So if you're not familiar with EzzyBills, EzzyBills is an online service that processes documents. So people often use EzzyBills to export bills into their accounting system or inventory system. So if I give you an example of what EzzyBills can do, so if I upload a bill here to EzzyBills, it's just going to export that bill through to whatever I'm connected to. So if I have a look at my workflows, you can see I'm connected to Xero, and so that bill will export into Xero here. So this is the workflow. So that's a very standard workflow. So how can AI or automation improve what you do? Well, that's precisely what I'm going to show today. So what we have here is the ability to actually create automation or workflows. So a lot of our customers have already started using EzzyBills for automation, and over the last few months. And so we've been studying the way that people sort of describe what the problem they're trying to solve. And we've been sort of building a solution which sort of allows people to describe what they would normally describe and then provide a workflow that would do what they want. So for example, if I just came in here and said something like export, extract invoice data, then export to Xero. So if I just typed in something like that and then clicked over here to create a workflow, then what EzzyBills will do is create this particular workflow, which does that. It extracts the data and then exports the bill to Xero. So if I come over here and just good to publish, so I've now created this workflow based on that simple description. And if I go back to my dashboard, I could then upload a bill to this workflow. So I would choose the workflow and then upload the bill to it, just like that. So what I just did then was I've gone to automation. I've put in a description, created a workflow, and then uploaded to that workflow. So that's a very simple scenario. So let's say we do it a little bit more, with a bit more complexity. Say extract invoice data, then send for approval, then export to QuickBooks. All right. So if I do that now, what I'd expect to happen is it's just going to have an approval process, which is this here, and then it's going to export to QuickBooks. All right. So that sort of makes sense what it's doing. I can then publish that workflow and then upload to the workflow, and it'll do exactly what I've done there, described. But let's say I want to send for approval. Let's say I want 2 levels of approval. So I could say something like 2 levels of approval. And do that. And what I'm expecting to happen here is it's going to work out, the AI is going to work out that we should have 2 levels of approval. And so it'll go and put in extract level 1 of approval, level 2 of approval. Let's say I want 4 levels of approval. Then I can do that, and it'll do that. And so you get the understanding of how it can create automated workflows for you. So it's going through and doing all 4 levels of approval there, and so I can sort of describe very sort of standard workflows, the standard workflows that you can just create right now in EzzyBills here, and then publish them. Right. So that's where we started out, but of course I want to get into some more details here, a bit more complexity. So that's what I'll do. So going to put in a workflow here, which is one of those workflows that customers had, got us to create for them. And so it comes up a bit. Now, I'll just walk through this workflow here. So what we have here is create a workflow that extracts the invoice data, then sends for approval, then exports the bill to Xero, then get the supplier name, then upload the binary file of this supplier to the suppliers folder in Xero. All right. So what's happening here is I'm just doing a normal kind of extract the details, doing approval, exporting to Xero, but then I'm doing something that's quite, I guess, customized, which is get the supplier name. So we're going to get the supplier off the bill, and then we're going to upload this file into Xero. So we're going to connect to Xero, upload the file to it, etc. Now, this bit of functionality here doesn't exist in EzzyBills. So what I've done, and this is important, I've put sort of double quotes around it. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to create me a workflow, but this task that EzzyBills doesn't know how to do right now, I want to just keep it together as a single custom task, and then we're going to implement it at the next level. So so this is what I'm going to do here. So this will explain what I mean. So if we have a look at this, so we've got the normal extraction approval process, export to Xero, but then we've got this custom task. All right. Now, if it's orange, it means it's a custom task. It's what we're telling EzzyBills to do. We're telling it to create a workflow, and then we want to do this thing. I've put double quotes around it to keep it together as if it's a one thing. It'll be a one task thing. And EzzyBills has searched its sort of, I guess, database of tasks that it knows how to implement, and it's found that it doesn't know how to implement the, get supplier name from, and then upload it as a folder, like the file into a folder in Xero. It doesn't know how to do that, right? So I've kind of put the quotes around it, and it's going to generate this custom task like that. So let me just go and do that now. So I'm just going to publish this. So I now have this workflow right here to do all these things. And then there's this sort of piece here that it doesn't really know what to do right now. So if I go and upload to this workflow, what I'm expecting to happen is it's going to go through the normal extraction approval process. It'll export to 0, but then it'll get to this task which it doesn't know how to do, right? And then it's just going to sort of skip it. Just kind of, it'll run it, but it will be, it's not implemented, so it doesn't actually do anything yet. So let's just have a look at this. Have a look at the log. So for all the documents, if you click on the link here, you would be able to go into the details and see the log. So it's finished extraction and it's waiting for approval. So I'm just going to go back and approve it. Oh, and if anyone has questions along the way, just put them in the chat, and Elise will notify me, and I'll answer them as we go. So if we go back to the log here, we'll see that the bill has gone through approval, and we've exported it to 0, and then we've run this task, this special task, but it actually doesn't do anything yet. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to implement this task. So let's come back to the workflow here. So this is this workflow I just created. So we're on the custom task. So I'm just going to click on this here. Right, so this is what I want to do. I want to get the supplier name, upload, and then upload a file to 0. So what that means is what EzzyBills needs to do is it needs to get the name of the supplier from the bill, and then it needs to connect to 0, and then it needs to use the 0 API to upload a file into 0. So I'm actually just going to put in a description to do that. Right, so get the current EzzyBills document. So when we think about a workflow, a document is flowing through the workflow. So all we want to do is, okay, that document we've already extracted who the supplier is. So just get the document and then set the folder equal to the supplier name. Then connect to 0. Look for the folder. So if the folder is, say, Bunnings, we'll be looking for a folder in 0 called Bunnings. This is in the files area of 0. And if we don't find it, we'll create the folder. And if we do find it, we'll just upload a file to that folder, right? So fairly sort of advanced sort of stuff, I guess. So we're going to do the code generation now. So this is going to implement that description. So behind the scenes, there's an AI code generator, which is generating the code that's going to connect to 0 and then upload a file to the 0 files area of 0. So this normally takes a bit of time to do.
Michael, well, that's processing. I might just jump in with a question if that works for you. I've got sort of 2 questions that are basically asking the same thing. When creating a workflow, do we need to be logged into each separate client's account? And there's another question basically saying that they've tried to do something similar. So
so the way that workflows work is that if you have a HQ account, so I've got a HQ account here. So if I create a workflow at the top or at the HQ account level, then those workflows will be visible to all the accounts underneath it. we don't create a workflow in all those other accounts, but it'll be visible to them. So you'd be able to, so if I created in the HQ account, I'd be able to go into the accounts below it and go new workflow, and it would show up. You'd be able to find the workflow there in the sort of the drop down. So anything you create at the main account, you'd be able to go to one of the sub accounts and then create a workflow, and it would be visible there, and you'd be able to create it at each of the accounts, and that workflow would exist there. Okay, so I'm slightly conflicted here. I'm not sure whether I should show the code or not show the code. But I show the code anyway. So this code was generated to basically do this here. I'll just quickly go through it. So this code was generated to get the current document, get the supplier, connect to Xero. So this is connecting to Xero. Then we're going to go through a process of searching for a folder that which is called, whatever the supplier name is, and if it exists, we upload to it. If it doesn't exist, we create the folder, which this creates the folder, and etc. So all this is using, I guess, Xero's APIs. So imagine the way the AI works. The AI basically goes out, has a look at Xero's API, scans all the functionality that Xero API has, and then it does a code generation based on what your description is. So in this case, I'm telling it to upload. I'm telling it to connect to Xero and upload to Xero, but I could tell it to connect to QuickBooks and try it, do the same sort of thing. All right. So after doing all that, I could come in here and do publish code. And what will happen then is if we come back to, let's just go back to the workflow. So in our workflow, we had this custom task that hasn't been implemented. Well, this is the implementation. So when I do publish here, what that means is this task will no longer be orange. It'll be sort of a bluey color, and it'll be ready to test, to upload documents to. But before that, I'm just going to make a slight change here. So I think it's good to add messages or something so that you know what's going. So I might say something like, when you have finished, say log a message to indicate what you did. All right, so basically all that's happening here is I'm telling the AI, after you've done that job, then just write a message, and that message will show up in the log. So if I just come in here, it's going to now regenerate the code, but it's going to put a message at the bottom. And that message will be probably something like, I just uploaded a document to some folder.
Michael, can you just clarify what a binary file means?
Yeah, so a binary file is just so you've got normally two types of files. You've got text files, which is what you'd have in like a notepad or something like that, and a binary file, which tends to be an image. It's arguably redundant. I probably don't need to say binary file there. I could just say file. So you don't need to say binary file. You can just say file. I think I just said binary file because all these files that we're uploading are images, so they're all binary files, but it's kind of redundant. So if we have a look at the bottom here, this is the change I made. So basically, it's successfully uploaded document, blah blah blah. Right. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to do this publish. So what's happening now is this task here is now getting basically deployed. So, well, I've created the code to implement that task, and now it's sort of getting built and deployed so that it will be usable in this workflow, and then I'll be able to test it. And now that does take about 5 minutes to do, to deploy. So it's got to do all sorts of things. So I'm just going to leave it there for a second. And what I'm going to do is I want to go through a few other things that we have under the automation. So I'm demonstrating this, creating a workflow using AI, but we also have a few other things. I'm just going to demonstrate some of the other features that we have. Now, one of them is what I call an AI app. Now, what this is basically, think of it as an application. So it's not part of a workflow. It just runs by itself. It's a bit like a web page. So it can do, you know, a variety of things that you want to do. So, for example, if I, you know, I could give this example here, supplier report. So I could come in here and put in a description like this, create a page with a title supplier report, add a drop down for supplier, which contains all your suppliers, add a button, create report, and the button is clicked. A table is created containing all the invoices of the selected supplier between that and here, right? So let's make it 26. Each row will contain the invoice date, total, and length. So what it's doing is it's just going to generate a report or a web page that will generate that report. So I've just put that in there.
I might just jump in again while that's generating. So someone's asked, if the script has failed, could you get the system to log that it's failed?
It is logged if it fails. It is logged. So if I come back over here and go to the dashboard, so when I went to create that task, it has basically created a I guess it created this job to run in the background to go and build and deploy that task. And if it fails or succeeds, all the information would be here. So that job to build the task, that created a document which you'll see on the dashboard. And so it'll be the last document that you created. So it'll be there. So it's doing it now. So if it fails, then it would show up here. You would see it here.
And just another quick one, the code that is generated, is it a particular computer language?
It depends. It depends. So this is supplier report. This code is a mixture of HTML and JavaScript. The tasks are generated using a C# code generator. So any of the tasks are all in C#. Any of the apps will be in JavaScript and HTML. I guess it's relevant only if you wanted to, only if you were familiar with the language and you wanted to see what it's doing. It's not necessary to understand the code for it to work. But so this is this report here. So if I just clicked on that. So this is a supplier report that was generated from this description. So I come over here and I think I've got some Bunnings bills in here somewhere. So it's basically, it's looking into EzzyBills, finding all the bills in EzzyBills for this supplier, and it's just dumping them to the screen. So it's sort of a report. You can go and change whatever you want, describe different problems, and it will do that as well. So I'll give you another example. Let's have a look here. So this is another example that I did, or one of our prompt engineers did for customer. So the customer wanted all their invoices as a single PDF. So what that means is, I guess in theory, what it means is getting all the documents and then merging them all together into a single document. So this app actually does that. So get all the suppliers, add a drop down, so you can select the supplier. Then you've got some period, week, month, etc. Add a button to merge all the PDFs. When clicked, get all the invoices on the specified period for the supplier. Use JavaScript PDF library to combine all the invoices in a single PDF. If an error occurs, then skip the file. Add a button to download. So let's have a look at what it does. This app is actually already deployed on everyone's account. It's what we'd call a global app. So if you went to, let's have a look here. If you went to apps, AI apps, this is it here. It's already there. All right. So it's, once again, it's generated the code. There's a link here. So you might want to have like test it, see if it does what you want. If it doesn't, you can adjust the code, regenerate, click again, test, etc. And so this is it. So once again, I can come in here. Findings last month, merge all PDFs, and it's kind of doing that right now. And I've got 10 PDFs in there. So I just downloaded them to your computer. So what I want to do is go back to the task that we generated. So if we have a look here, you can see that at this time, it started the process, then it deployed the code, etc. And then, so it took a couple of minutes and now it's finished. So if we go and have a look at the workflow now, what we expect to see is, we see this sort of a darker blue now, which means it's not an unimplemented custom task, but it's actually been implemented. So that task now exists in your account, and so you'll be able to test it. So for example, this is the workflow. So I'm just going to upload a bill. So what we're expecting to happen now is it's going to upload. So it's going to go through an approval again. It's going to export to 0, and then it's going to do this task that I just implemented. So that'll take about 20 seconds to do. And then we can connect to to 0 and have a look at what it's done.
Okay, I might jump in with a couple of questions if we're
Yep.
waiting. So based on a previous example, I could potentially have one workflow profile to push supplier invoices to a particular program, i.e. Simpro. Then once it's extracted, it then emails another profile with a workflow that just saves the invoice to another program, i.e. Xero.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess, and then there's a follow-up. Sorry, just want to
Yeah.
confirm we can email from one profile to another.
Yeah. So why don't I'll talk about an actual very similar case right after this. So the way that you generally want to move documents between different workflows is you do a switch workflow. So a document comes through EzzyBills, it does something, and you now want it to go and do something completely different depending on some criteria. A switch workflow would be the way to do that. You would switch the workflow and then you would have this other workflow. So I'll actually demonstrate that next. So if we have a look at the log of the document I just uploaded, so it'll be all the same until we get to here. And now it's running this actual task that I just implemented. And you'll see here it says successfully uploaded document to the folder in Xero, right? So that's because in our AI task, where are we? In our AI task, we actually did that, right? We told it to log a message. And if we have a look at the message, we'll see that it says that there. So that's the actual message that was there. So let's have a look in Xero, and we should be able to find the file. So if we come in here and we go into files, so this Bunnings group, so that's the folder that I created. So I created one before the webinar just so that I tested it, make sure it works. And this is the document that we just uploaded just then. So what's happened here is I uploaded this bill to the workflow in EzzyBills. EzzyBills has gone and done its approval, export to Xero. Now, we always attach the bills in Xero anyway, but this is just creating a folder in Xero for each supplier and putting the bill in there as well. So some people might want that sort of behavior where they can keep all their files in folders within Xero. Well, that could be achieved by simply adding this workflow, this work task to the end of your workflow, and you'll get that for free. So I think what I'll do now is I'll address the question we had. And so what I'm going to come over here, I'm going to just create a new workflow. Let me find an interesting one. So let's just do this. All right. So in this workflow, what it would be, just give it a go again, is I'm just going to do the normal process, extract the details off the invoice. But then I'm going to check to see if there's a job on the invoice. So in EzzyBills, during extraction, we would extract, the job, for example, just like we extract a purchase order. So we can extract the job if it's there. If the job is missing, then send an email to Simpro supplier, else export to Simpro. And once again, you can see that there's this orange task here, which means EzzyBills doesn't have a task which does that. So it's creating an orange sort of task, which is unimplemented. So we can go ahead and do the publish. Now, the reason this is like the question that you would ask is in this case here, this document comes through to this point here. Well, now we don't want to export it to Simpro because there's no job, right? So that's where I'm going to talk about how you can, once you get to a point where you don't want it to go any further in the workflow, you switch the workflow. So I just published that, and let's just come over here and let me just okay, so now this is another, I guess, important thing that I suggest is sometimes it can be difficult to explain things in one sentence. We tend not to do that. We tend to do one sentence, then another sentence, and then another sentence. So the same with AI. You should try to avoid having too much rambling information as one kind of sentence. So it's good to do things like have task 1, task 2, task 3, break them up into independent tasks, and then the AI is much better at doing each piece in isolation and getting it right. So the question was before was asking about switching to a different profile. Well, that's where this comes in. So I can create a workflow called job missing, and then what will happen is if the AI decides that this document doesn't meet a criteria or does meet a criteria, and I want to not do something, I want to do something else, then doing a switch would achieve that. So if I show what I mean here, so I've got this workflow called job missing, and it does nothing. It just, you drop a document onto it and it'll just stop. Nothing else will happen. And so think of it as a sort of a folder to hold that document. So the invoice might come in and you process it and it goes right through, it gets exported, everything's perfect. But then there's some criteria such as maybe the bill is missing the purchase order number or it's missing a job or it might even be a new supplier. And under those circumstances, you don't want it to proceed. You want it to go somewhere else, maybe to go through an additional level of approvals, or maybe just to sit on the side somewhere. And so that's what creating a separate workflow and switching to it. All right, so let's just go and generate some code here. All right, Elise, I think it's a good time for people to start hitting me with the tough questions. I've had the easy ones so far. I'm all ready for the tough ones.
Okay, well, I don't know if we've got tough ones yet, but I'm sure they're coming. So can I use the switch workflow if an invoice does not get approved and needs to go to another person for approval?
By not getting approved, I'm guessing what they mean is that the document comes through, sent to someone for approval, and they ignore it. Am I kind of right there, or?
Yeah, it's not clear. I mean, when I look at this question, I think it's more of, I don't know, potentially the not for me button on the approval, or it gets rejected if an invoice does not get approved,
So
or it gets rejected.
yeah, well, I can imagine a scenario. So let's come over here. So let's say I'll create a workflow here. All right. So what I'm going to do.
Is it meant to say if the supplier is Bunnings?
Yeah. All right. So if I did something like this, then it's going to do the normal kind of thing. Now, in a scenario where, let's say the supplier is not Michael, then it would just fall through and it'd just get exported. So what we can do is we can do something like else, switch to no approver, for example. All right. Now, so what's happening here is, and once again, this is just sort of a description. So it's not an implementation. So if EzzyBills had this task already in existence, it would just drop it in, but it does not because it's fairly specific here. So I'm just going to publish that there. All right. So now when I come in here, so what I could do is precisely what I just described before, which is this is where I'm going to implement that task. So I might say get supplier name. If supplier is Bunnings, send to Michael. Else switch to no supplier workflow. All right. And so this is going to implement that now. Right. So we've got here, we're getting the supplier. If the supplier is Bunnings, send it that. Otherwise, switch to no supplier workflow. So if I go and publish this and then upload a bill to this workflow, then what's going to happen is it's going to, if it's not a Bunnings bill, it will switch to this no supplier. So I'd have to come in here and create a new workflow, just a custom workflow, and call it no supplier. and those non-Bunnings bill will drop onto here, and then you can do whatever you want there. You can have rules where it gets sent to someone else. You could have rules where it switches to another EzzyBill account. You can do all sorts of things, whatever you want. You can just store it, etc. So that's kind of how I would answer the question of what do you do if you have a document which needs to go to another profile. It's switch workflows is the way to do it. Yeah, so I think I'll come back here. I'll put in another one which is worth doing. So I've got another. So you see here, I've this task already exists in EzzyBills. So if purchase order is empty, send email to zero supplier. So it's already been implemented. It's within EzzyBills. So the workflow has incorporated this task, so you don't have to go and create the task yourself. And so what this workflow does is, well, I'll actually show you what it does. All right. So let me clear out some of my workflows. It's getting complicated. Okay. So this is the workflow that I'm interested in. So in this workflow, what's happening is the bill is getting extracted, and then we're going to look up the supplier in Xero. So we'll look up the supplier in Xero, then find the email address associated with that supplier. Right. So we'll look up if the purchase order is empty, we look up the supplier in Xero, find the email address for that supplier in Xero using the Xero API, and then send an email to that supplier saying, this bill doesn't have a purchase order number, blah, 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 we won't process it. So just have a look at that one. So that's processing now. All right, so there was, so we would have sent the email here. There was no PO, so we've switched to this missing PO number workflow. So if we have a look over here, we can see that this document is basically sitting there in this workflow now. And if I check my email, because I put myself down in Xero, so we sent this email, that task sent that email here. All right, so I'm still waiting for those tough questions.
Yeah, there's lots of them. I was just going to tell you, there's lots of them piling up.
Okay.
So just a bit of a follow up to the logging from before.
Yeah.
If the workflow setup could not create the new folder or upload the binary file, is this logged? You created an entry to flag that was successful. Sorry, what happens if it fails?
Yep. Okay, excellent. That's what I'm after. All right, so so that's the obvious thing to do next. You create something. It does it works, but you need more. You need more. So this is important here. So the thing to do then is come to workflows, come to tasks, scroll down, and go to the tasks. So in this is this one here, right? So this is this task here that we want to do something about, right? So let's click on modify. All right, so we've got here, and what is going to happen is that if it's not successful, it's going to give an error, fail to upload file, and this will be the error message that you're going to get, right? But let's say that's not good enough, right? I want better than that. So what I could do is, if upload fails, then send an email to michael@ezzydoc.com explaining what is wrong, right? Can I not spell?
There's, yeah, it's N-I-N-G. You're missing an I and an N in there.
A-I-N, explaining, all right. Another thing too is that EzzyBills has a notification space. This is up here. See these notifications? So you can also write to the notifications as well. So you might say, and it's called a console. So write to console file upload complete, something like that. All right. So what I'm doing here is I've got a task that has already been deployed and I've already tested it, and I want to change it. So I've come into the workflows task, I found the task, and now I'm just going to regenerate the code, right? I'm not publishing it yet, I'm just regenerating it. So those two little changes that I put, I'd expect them to come into the code now.
Okay, might keep going just in the interest of time. So this was just a quick question from when you were batching all those Bunnings invoices. They were just asking if those PDFs were coming from EzzyBills history or from Xero.
Coming from those ones were coming from EzzyBills, but you can create a task where they could come from Xero. You'd have to just say connect to Xero and then describe what you want to do. Maybe get all the invoices in the last month, get their attachments, and then that would be able to be done. This is probably a good time to mention. So EzzyBills have been building up a team of engineers, prompt engineers, I call them, to work on building out our functionality, etc. So if you're on an enterprise plan, then you'll have access to the AI functionality as well as these engineers to help build out solutions as well. So that's just
on the topic of Xero, somebody's asking if you can query the Simpro API as well.
Yes, definitely. So there will be, if you have a look in there, there'll be a few different tasks that I've already created for Simpro. So we pretty much fully understand, or the AI understands the Simpro API. So you can do things like switch purchase orders from received to not received, from autocomplete to not autocomplete, things like that. The AI will be able to do those sort of things as well. So you can keep on asking questions if you want, Elise.
Yeah, I think this is a really good question. Can you show us how to tweak our existing workflow and codes, please?
Yeah. So that's exactly what's happening here, right? So on the left-hand side was the code that was generated 5 minutes ago. On the right-hand side is the new code. And AI has a tendency to do things differently. It'll be the same, but slightly different. But if we have a look at the bottom here, there's the two things I wanted to show. So we'll see here, you've got this message here, fail to get folders from 0. And then we're writing to the console. So if I publish this task, and then if there was an error, then we would write that error message to the console and would see it in the notifications at the top. And we'd also send an email to me explaining that things didn't quite work out right. So in terms of the question, how do you modify the task? Super simple. You got to go to the task. This only applies to tasks that you own or that you created. If they're global tasks created by EzzyBills, then you can't modify them. But if you created the task, then you can come into the task, click on modify, and then change your description, and then publish the new code. And when we publish the new code, it basically means that if we come back to the workflow over here, this task here is getting updated right now. So we're going to replace it with the new task. So to modify tasks, then you just do that. You go to modify, redo it. For workflows, also to modify workflows, you just come into the workflow, click on the workflow, and do what you can do right now. You can delete, etc. And you can create new tasks. So this task here. So this is the one that's currently being updated. So I can drop it in here, and what would happen now is we would extract the details, and then we would just be uploading those files into folders in Xero. So this workflow would just be every time a bill came in, it would look for a folder in Xero and put the file in there, and then notify me by email that it has done such a thing. So that's how you modify the workflows. So modify workflows is very easy. Modifying tasks, that involves coming in here and clicking on settings. Oh, sorry, that's not correct. You would come into tasks, come in here, and then modify, and you'd go through and modify. So this will be the latest one that we just did. I think I covered that.
Okay, lots of questions coming in. I'm conscious that it's 12:30, so if you've got to leave, obviously that's totally fine. But if you're happy to stick around, we're happy to keep going through the rest of the questions. So we will continue with that. Will the AI know about Xero API calls that currently aren't implemented within EzzyBills? For example, submitting as a bill instead of a purchase order.
Absolutely. So the AI is the AI when you're connect. So let me back up a bit clearer about what I say. So if I come in over here and I create a workflow, and then that workflow, say, has a task, right? And in that task, I do something like I say connect to Xero. So within the task, I say connect to Xero. What that does is that tells the AI to go out and look at the Xero API as they exist out there on the internet. So Xero publish an API, and we're going out, the AI is going out there looking at the Xero's API, not at the EzzyBills implementation of, say, exporting bills or that. This is what is actually on the internet. So what the Xero API supports. So anything the Xero API supports, the AI should be able to do. So if it's like, I think we support quotes, but if, let's say, we didn't support quotes, then you'd be able to create quotes using the AI and other things you'd be able to do. So to answer your question, yes, everything should be supported by the AI.
Great, thanks. Could I have a workflow that recognizes a bill from a new supplier and automatically enters all of their information as a contact for me?
Yep, I could see how I could do that. So I would start with the AI workflow and describe basically the parts of it that are obvious, which is extract. And then we're going to have a task, which is going to be something like, it'd be something like this. If supplier, okay, so I'd probably say something like get supplier, connect to Xero. If supplier does not exist in Xero, then, and the next thing, of course, is where are we getting the supplier details from? So you could probably, there are probably, you might be able to do an ABR lookup to get the supplier name, etc., and things like that. So that would be possible, but probably requires someone to spend a bit of time to find the resource to get that supplier name, and the supplier details. But once you have it, then you would be able to do something like create a new supplier in Xero, with name, and then whatever that name is. So I'm expecting this here to basically generate code, which would be able to create a new supplier in Xero.
Cool. Okay, I think we'll keep moving, and maybe, we'll try to just answer the questions instead of building out tasks, just because we've got a few to if you create a new workflow and incorporate an existing custom task, what happens if you amend that task? Does it affect the other workflows that also use that task, or does it create a new version? Great question.
Yeah, a task is a one thing. It can be used in many workflows, but it is one thing. So if you created a task and you're using it in one workflow, and then you put it in another workflow, it's exactly the same code. There's no difference. So if you modify the task, you modify all workflows that are using that task. So if you want to have a different version, then what you would want to do is go to the modify the task, just copy the description, and then go new task, put in the description, then create your new workflow, your new task, make your modification, publish it, and then you've got task 1 and task 2.
Cool. Okay. Can the custom automations be set up to post with certain information via webhook, for example, to external sites that EzzyBills doesn't normally talk to, i.e. custom built software?
Absolutely. That's one of the easier things to do. So you could probably, what you would probably do is what I would do is I would probably just say create a JSON object with the following fields, right? and then you've created this thing, and then you would say, post it to, Workbench API and put in the URL, and it would do that. So yes, that's how you would do it. You could post it straight there, or you could call a webhook, and then normally a webhook, it doesn't have much of a payload to it, but you could put a payload if you want as well. So yeah, you can do that.
Thanks. For the suppliers that have automatic fill imports in Simpro, we could disconnect the file import and have our invoices sent directly from the suppliers to our EzzyBills workflow, ? We could then create workflows that flag invoices that are over a certain dollar amount and needs to be approved. We find there's a big gap in the Simpro process where there's no step for price checking invoices before they are assigned to a
job. Definitely. So you could have it flow through, and then you can have a task which is basically checking. You'd have to describe what it is you want to do. We do have some built-in functionality related to price checking, but you might also do something like ask the AI to look up the PO, or even look up the item in Simpro, get the price, then compare it to what's on the bill. And if there's a discrepancy, or if it's greater than, say, 10% above the stocked price, then switch to the price is not correct workflow. And then when it switches to that workflow, you might just have it sit there, or might go to someone for approval, and he'd there have to then approve it. And that approval process might involve contacting the supplier to say, why is the price above what we agreed? And they might say, oh, sorry, I've made a mistake. And then you delete it from EzzyBills and it will come through again. So it's certainly, there's some complexity there that needs to be put together, but definitely achievable. And once done, it would just work smoothly.
Could you copy a global task and then amend it to what you want?
Yes, you can. Well, yes and no. So right now, I did notice that global tasks, you don't see the prompt description. So the description of a global task is currently not visible. So I'm going to fix that. I just realized that today. So I'm going to fix that. But once, for example, this, well, I tell a lie. It's right there. So yeah, this is the description for a global task. So this is a global task. This is the description. So I could come over to the task, give it a name, copy the description from the global task, create the task, publish the task. I now have my own local task, and I can modify it or do whatever I want with it. Yeah.
If you edit a custom task and then publish it, is a history kept to show when the custom task was updated?
Yes. So we need to do a little bit more, but right now, every custom task would have a document associated with it, and that document will have a log associated with it, and that log will be updated as we go along. So if I say have a look here, so this was a task that we created, and then I modified it, and so we can see that I modified it, and we can see what we can see that it has been modified. Internally, we have records of all the tasks. Currently in the UI, you can only see the latest. So I guess that answers the question. There will be a record. You can certainly see if it's changed. and I could see if what was changed.
Okay, we've got 2 more questions, and then I think we'll probably finish up. If I create a new task that is meant to tweak an existing task created by EzzyBills, will it cause any issues?
No, none at all. It's you create a new task. It's totally new task. It applies in your sort of workspace, applies to your documents, has no impact on anyone else, and you can do what you want. So yeah, there's no concern there.
And this one's kind of I don't know, similar but different. Is there any way to do an exact copy of a task without having the AI generate it? Because sometimes the AI creates things slightly differently.
Yeah, no, there's no way to do that. The AI is definitely can generate different code each time. Doesn't normally make that big a difference. It's generally if you're able to diff the 2 versions, the old version and the new version, it's normally okay. But yeah, there's no guarantee. There's no way to prevent slight variations, but functionally it should be the same.
Okay, I think that's it.
Excellent. Okay, thanks. Thank you everyone for showing up. And I guess I look forward to seeing what AI workflows and AI tasks people create. And if you do have questions, contact support and we'll help whatever you want. Thank you very much, and have an excellent day. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Well, what do you think, Elise?
Yeah, it was good. You just got to end the meeting. There's still people here, and I can't end it.
Okay. And